everyone, it's Christina of CraftyPaws. I'm here to share a process video on how I made this card. I played with some flocking powder that I recently picked up. It's this black Inkadinkado. I played with some texture paste for this brick background. And I created this really simple scene card with very little Copic coloring, just a little shading. I hope you enjoy this process video. For the card base, I have cut by hand a center step card that once closed will measure in a traditional A2 size, which is 5.5 by 4.25. And if you're interested in the dimensions of where I folded and cut, please check my blog post, which I will link to in the description box below. Now I've masked off certain parts of the card front with some wide washi tape, and you saw me put it on my hand or on my arm, and that's just to get some more of the stickiness off. And I'm mixing some DecoArt Dimensional Effects Paintable Texture Paste along with some Folk Art Extreme Glitter Acrylic Paint. And that's because I want some shimmer and sparkle to the background, even though I want this to be all very monochromatic. So I'm just doing white on white for the background. And I'm going to be, I realize I need a little bit more of the area masked off. So again, I'm putting that on my hand to take off some of the stickiness, and I am masking off the back fold part of the card front. And any kind of post-it note or masking paper will work, but I just thought I'd use what I had on hand, which is some wide washi tape. And I'm using the Tim Holtz bricked stencil. And I love the stencil because it's not a totally clean cut. It's kind of got a distressed look to the brick, and I wanted that for this bricked wall. And I'm putting that on the two side panels as well as some on the middle area. But I'm not making a completely flat wall because I kind of want an artistic, more distressed, uneven look. And I think I've created just enough of the texture paste to get enough coverage on the card front, and that's the front panel as well as the two side panels. Using a distressed stencil like this bricked wall is really forgiving, meaning that if the stencil shifts a little bit, as you saw there, it's not going to ruin the effect. What I think is the key, and what I suggest as a tip, is to put on a really thin coating of whatever texture paste or modeling paste that you're using so that it doesn't seep underneath the stencil. And then be patient. Remove the tape or the masking paper that you're using when it's still relatively wet, being careful not to smear the modeling paste or texture paste that you've used, and then set it aside and let it fully dry before you start manipulating the card. Now while that's drying, I'm going to be working on the main image, and this is a penny black cling stamp called Fashion Leader, and I absolutely fell in love with this image because this little girl is so fashionable, and I love that she's walking her dog while she's shopping. It's just so me. Anyway, I'm using a Misty stamping tool because I'm not a great stamper and I really wanted the image to be crisp and clean. I'm using Tuxedo Memento black ink, but I am doing a couple of iterations of stamping just so I can get a really crisp, clean black image. I've never played with flocking powder before, so I'm skipping over the couple of failed attempts with art glitter glue with a fine nozzle tip and also with a Versa marker, and I'm just going to show you what did work, which was the Tombow Mono liquid glue, the aqua glue. I've poured out a little bit on a scrap piece of paper, and I'm using a brush that I have dedicated to just using with adhesives, so it's not a great quality brush, and I'm just putting the glue directly onto the rubber stamp. Now it's important to note here that I don't think putting glue directly onto stamps with a brush is how flocking powder is normally used. I think they have glue ink pads made for this. But I didn't have that, so I figured I would try different things that I did have in my stash. And this seemed to work great. I'm pouring over the flocking powder, I'm catching the excess in a coffee filter, and I'm tapping off all of that excess flocking powder. And now I'm going to try to burnish on the flocking powder without rubbing it completely off. I'm taking a plastic spoon and I'm just dabbing it so that it's embedded, all those fibers, it's kind of like a felted powder. All of those particles are embedded into the adhesive, and that seemed to work great. Once everything has completely dried, I'm gonna brush off the excess with a dry brush, just a paintbrush. To create a grounding, I'm just using some black script washi tape and some gray and white striped washi tape to create the ground where the little fashionable girl and her dog are walking. To go with the distressed look of the background, I wanted to have the torn edge of the washi showing on either side or either edge of the card. And I'm trying to make sure that there's no white showing where I'm seaming the two strips of washi together. And here I'm just hand cutting off the overhang where the washi hangs off the edge of the card. Now, because I didn't want the ground to be so dominant and that black seemed really strong, I'm adding a strip of kind of thinner gray striped washi. And because the gray stripe was a little translucent, I did 2 layers of this stripe so that you would actually see the stripe more clearly, even though it's on top of a black background. To get the girl popped up a little bit, adding a little dimension and making sure that she and her dog are the focal point of this card, I've put double-sided foam adhesive all along the back, even those thin legs and arms and the leash. And I really like how that adds that extra little dimension. Where the double-sided foam adhesive hangs off, and you can see there, it hangs off the edges. Instead of trying to cut those double-sided foam adhesives off, I'm using my EK powder tool to make the stickiness of that tape go away. And to finish off the card, I did some really simple Copic coloring, just adding some shading to the underside of her arms, the legs, colored in a little bit of her shopping bags and her hair. I wanted to keep this all really sophisticated and monochromatic, so I used just my gray markers, the warm grays for her skin area and for the little puppy, and the cool grays for the inanimate or not living things like her hair and her shopping bags. If you're interested in the particular Copic colors I used, please check out my blog post, which I'll link to below. And then to finish off the card, because there was this little blank space and I thought she looked like she was having such a great day, I doodled out this little thought bubble, these 2 little thought bubbles emanating the little circles, and I hand wrote "Life is good" and fussy cut that out. For the "Life is good," I popped that up on double-sided foam adhesive. And that's my finished card. I hope you guys have enjoyed this process video. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.